I've been in a relationship with my girlfriend for the past 3 years, affectionately calling her Nikki. Our journey began innocently enough when I commented on one of her Instagram stories. From that point, we engaged in conversations, exchanged numbers, and connected on Snapchat. After a week, we decided to meet in person, starting our hangouts right after the holidays in January. With Valentine's Day approaching, the idea of not being alone during that holiday was a relief. However, as the romantic day drew near and Nikki and I had a few dates under our belt, she revealed a troubling situation involving a stalker named Ben. A few years older than her, Ben attended the same commuter college and had met her during a group project. Disturbingly, he had followed her around campus, leaving Nikki feeling uneasy. Despite the creepy texts and a box of chocolates left at her doorstep, Nikki had refrained from involving the police until now. Valentine's Day approached, and Ben escalated his texts. Concerned, Nikki finally responded, urging him to seek help and informing him that she was seeing someone. Worried for her safety, I assured Nikki that I would do everything in my power to protect her. Days later, Nikki shared a screenshot of a text from a fake number asking if I was the person she was seeing. Now I was directly involved, feeling a sense of discomfort. All I knew about Ben was that he was an overly persistent texter with potential stalking tendencies, and now he was bringing my name into the mix. With Nikki considering involving the police, I offered to accompany her to the station if Ben reached out once more. As Valentine's Day arrived on a Friday, Nikki and I went out for a romantic dinner by the water, keeping an eye out for any signs of Ben. Amidst our laughter, we noticed a man with a hat pulled down, sitting on a bench outside the restaurant. Jokingly, Nikki suggested it might be Ben, but when he subtly shifted his head in our direction, our amusement turned into concern. As he walked away, we questioned the possibility of it being him. Later, at my rental house, we encountered a disturbing incident in the backyard. A noise led me outside, and I discovered a stack of beach chairs knocked over. Investigating further, I noticed someone tall in the bushes, realizing it was Ben. In a tense confrontation, I managed to restrain him until Nikki called the police. Upon their arrival, Ben was arrested and charged with trespassing. Nikki presented the evidence of his obsessive messages, leading to charges of stalking and harassment. Ben paid a fine and received a misdemeanor, while Nikki obtained an order of protection against him. Thankfully, he hasn't contacted her since. Ben, the ultimate creep, learned a lesson, and Nikki can now live without the constant fear of his presence. If you liked this story, subscribe to the channel to stay tuned. This incident unfolded 4 years ago as Valentine's Day approached. My boyfriend and I had planned a charming dinner, typical of most couples. As we walked into the restaurant, we noticed a peculiar couple outside, staring at us oddly. I lightly nudged my boyfriend's arm as we entered, and he provided his name for the waiting list. The host informed us of a 45-minute wait, promising to text us when our table was ready. Deciding to pass the time, my boyfriend suggested mini-golf across the street. On our way back to his car, the lady from the staring couple stood up, introducing herself as Mrs. Gretty. It struck me as odd, and I looked at my boyfriend. Politely, I shook her hand, only to hear her proposition. Mrs. Gretty and her husband, who apparently thought we were a great-looking couple, were photographers and believed we would make fantastic subjects. They urged us to follow them to their studio, conveniently a 5-minute drive away. Red flags waved in my mind, and my boyfriend gracefully declined, explaining that we had other plans. As we got in the car, I shared my unease with him about the creepy encounter. The husband had not uttered a word during the entire interaction. Upon arriving at the mini golf place, we were surprised to find it empty. We laughed it off, but in reality, I remained creeped out. The place wasn't expansive, and we could see the front door from all levels. On our 5th round, the entrance bell rang and my heart sank. It was the same couple. Mrs. Gretty smiled eerily as we decided to cut our game short. We felt uncomfortable, and my boyfriend agreed to wait in the car. After 15 minutes, we noticed the couple was right behind us, offering the widest smiles. They approached us, suggesting a face-off between Gretty versus Rod. referencing my boyfriend's last name. Politely declining, we left swiftly, their smiles fading as we hurried away. Suggesting we call it a night, my boyfriend assured me we would head to his place. As we waited in his car, discussing the weird situation, we received a text from the restaurant informing us that our table was ready. We enjoyed dinner and my boyfriend insisted on covering the bill for Valentine's Day. He excused himself to the restroom, and during my wait, I thought I glimpsed Mrs. Gretty peeking around a corner. Convinced it was just my imagination, we left the restaurant to go to his place, which was closer to mine. On the way, we noticed a car following us. Concerned, we pulled into a CVS parking lot. Both of us got out, and after using the restroom, we couldn't spot the car that might have been tailing us. Heading toward his house, we took the road surrounded by trees. After a few minutes, we heard a loud pop. Both front tires had burst. Sensing danger, my boyfriend urged me to get out quickly. He turned off the engine, extinguished the lights, and locked the doors. Confused and scared, I suggested waiting in the car. However, my boyfriend grabbed me, and we ran into the woods. Hiding behind trees and bushes, he called the police, explaining our location and the unfolding events. With the operator on the line, he hung up, and we waited, lying low. Soon, we heard a car approaching. My boyfriend instructed us to lie flat, and as the engine stopped, Mrs. Gretty's voice echoed. She exclaimed, frustrated, and the car sped away. We stayed down until the cops arrived about 2 minutes later. Relaying the situation, we were told we'd be contacted if anything surfaced. My sister picked us up, and my boyfriend arranged for his car to be towed. 4 years later, nothing has come of it, and we never discovered their intentions or identities. We are now married with a remarkable story to share. During the fall semester of 2018, while attending online classes at a prestigious college, I anticipated transferring to my hometown university for the winter semester. Despite the impending move, I wanted to make new friends to avoid feeling alone. I also hoped to find someone to date, which led me to meet a girl on Tinder. We clicked, and our connection blossomed into a dating scenario filled with laughter and shared interests. After Thanksgiving break, I noticed a change in her behavior, a shift from playful teasing to a more aggressive tone. While there was no physical harm, the change in dynamic raised concerns. I attributed it to stress, assuming it was related to impending finals. She went back home for winter break, and despite staying in touch through texts, snaps, and occasional FaceTime calls, the relationship took a turn. Upon starting the winter semester, I opted for an apartment instead of dorms. On the first day of classes, we decided to part ways. The long-distance strain combined with her homesickness prompted the breakup. It was a mutual decision, sparing me the stress of being the one to end things. As weeks passed, the initial sadness faded, and I reflected on overlooked issues in the relationship. Approaching Valentine's Day, I felt a tinge of melancholy, having planned surprises for my now ex-girlfriend. To counter the solitude, I reactivated my Tinder account a week before the holiday. Conversing with various matches, I discovered they planned to go to bars, a lifestyle not appealing to me. Among them, I connected with Alex, a girl who shared my preference for staying in and watching movies. Texting for about an hour, we moved the conversation to Snapchat. I proposed hanging out on Valentine's Day, and she agreed. We spent the evening smoothly, grabbing McDonald's, watching a movie, and strolling through the downtown area. To spare the details, the night concluded back at my apartment, where things took an intimate turn. Due to snowy weather, Alex stayed the night. Around 3 a.m., I woke briefly as Alex went to the bathroom. Still half asleep, I noticed her absence around 5:30 a.m. As I searched for her, a creak from the bedroom revealed her standing in a corner. Startled, I called her name, but she remained unresponsive. When she suddenly turned and began screaming while hitting me, I was shocked. After 30 seconds, she grabbed her clothes and fled. Locking the door, I discovered a repugnant smell from the bathroom. Opening the door, I found a disturbing scene, a messy room with defecation smeared on the mirror. I immediately called the police, who took a report. Unfortunately, Alex had deleted her Tinder and Snapchat profiles, leaving little for the authorities to track. Wary of potential threats, the police advised having a friend stay over. I called my friend Rob, who shared the same major as Alex. Despite taking a class she claimed to be in, Rob did not recognize her from the photo. That night, we watched a movie, and I awoke at 3 a.m. to someone trying to open the front door. After a minute, it stopped, and nothing has happened since. The unsettling experience continues to haunt me. What I'm about to tell you happened last year on Valentine's Day. I'm a female who lives by myself in a small house, about 10 minutes outside of a major city. I've lived in this house for about 3 years now, after moving from an apartment in another city. I had been single for a while and I hadn't really been dating at the time. I was mainly just focusing on work, which was really busy at this time of the year. Then one morning it happened to be Valentine's Day, and I got up at about 6 a.m. like I usually did. When I stepped out of my front door, I noticed that there was a letter on my front step with a rose on top of it. I picked it up and saw that it had my name on it, but no return address. It was strange because at this early in the morning, I knew that somebody had to physically bring the letter and rose to my front step, and not just mail it. I took them both inside and was really curious to find out who this was from. When I opened up the letter, my mood went from happy to creeped out. The letter was typed out and started out by complimenting me on my looks and also saying I was really nice. Then it went on to describe some of my daily activities, and eventually whoever wrote it said that we were meant to be together. However, they never left their name, and there was no indication at all of who it was from. I took a photo of it and sent it to a text and group chat that I had with several of my friends, asking if one of them did it as a joke. I really didn't think they would do something like that. And sure enough, they all denied it. But they did think it was pretty funny. I thought about all the people that it could have been, but I didn't really have any good ideas as to who it was. I decided to just move on and forget all about it. That night when I returned home from work, I once again saw something on my front step. It was a heart-shaped piece of paper and it said on it, "Why don't you spend Valentine's Day with me?" I took it and went inside and called my best friend to tell her about it. We talked for a while and it made me feel better. But a little while later, after hanging up as I was in my living room, I heard a knock coming from my front door. It was nighttime by now, so it immediately got me suspicious. I went over to the front door, but nobody was there. I thought I saw her to the corner of my eye, a man walking down the sidewalk in the other direction. Of course, I only saw him for a second, so I couldn't really give a description of him at all. I opened the door and there were no new letters or anything like that. On the front step, I was now pretty concerned about whoever this was, but I didn't really know if it was grounds to call the police or anything like that. I hadn't been threatened or anything, so it seemed like it could have all just been a joke, and I didn't want to overreact, but still I couldn't help but feel nervous about who it had been. I called my best friend back, and she offered to come over and stay the night with me, which I said yes to. She didn't live too far away, and was there within 15 minutes. There was no more activity the rest of the night, and the next day, everything seemed fine. I went back to work. Like usual, when I got home, I was happy to see that there were no letters or anything like that. I figured whatever had happened was just some Valentine's Day prank. I still wondered who it was though, but I was no longer really that concerned. But about 2 days later, as I got home from work, I once again saw a letter at my front doorstep. I got a bad feeling when I saw it. When I got inside, I opened up the letter. Inside the envelope, there was another handwritten note. It said, quote, "I've been watching you. I hope you enjoyed my Valentine's Day card. The other day I also knocked on your door several times, and tomorrow, when you get back from work, I will be back." I couldn't believe it when I read this, and I suddenly felt really freaked out, like I wasn't alone. I ran straight from my front door and out to my car. When I was safely in my car, I drove to the nearest police station. I told everything to them, and they ended up investigating and having an officer stay in my house for a couple of days. I don't think they ever found out who was behind it all, but I never had anything like that happen again. A few years back, I went on a date with my girlfriend on Valentine's Day. We went out to a really nice and fancy restaurant. The restaurant was one of those that was pretty expensive, and you needed to make reservations for. You also had to wear nice clothes. We didn't normally go to such nice restaurants, but on the special occasion of Valentine's Day, it was nice. Our plan was for after dinner to go to a movie when we were leaving the restaurant and going out to my car in the parking lot. I saw there was a man standing kind of next to my car. I was parked kind of in the back of the parking lot. So I was sort of surprised to see this. The man was wearing a suit and saw me walking towards him but didn't say anything. I guess maybe he was waiting for someone or something like that. He was probably about 6 feet away from the passenger side of my car. When I got close to him, I said hi. The man didn't say hi back to me though. He just kind of looked away and sort of took a few steps farther. We got in and drove away to a movie theater that was about 10 minutes away. The movie theater was pretty busy, and after we had gotten our seats, I left to go to the bathroom. As I was walking down the hall of the movie theater, I saw the same man in a suit. Once again, he was just kind of standing near the bathrooms, looking in another direction. He never looked at me at all, and as I got closer, I was sure it was him. I went to the bathroom and then walked back to the theater where my girlfriend was, and I told her about seeing the man. She thought that I was joking at first and started laughing until I told her that I was serious. We didn't really know what to make of it, but just hoped that it was a strange coincidence, and for the most part, we ended up forgetting about it when the movie was over. We left the theater, and we didn't see the man at all in the theater or the parking lot. We got back to my apartment to watch some TV and have some drinks. I would say about an hour after getting back, as I was changing channels on the TV, my girlfriend asked me to come and look out the window. I walked over to it and looked outside. Down below, I lived on the 3rd floor, so it was sort of high up but not really way up there. I saw on the side of the road was the same man in a suit just standing there. Now I knew this couldn't be a coincidence. This time it appeared he was on the phone. I knew without a doubt that this was the same guy. We were both really creeped out now. I had enough at this point and decided to go downstairs and confront the man. I left the apartment and walked down the stairs into the lobby. Then I went out the door to the street where the man was. But when I got there, he was gone. I walked down the street a little bit and looked all around. I couldn't find him, so I went back up to the apartment and asked my girlfriend if she saw which way the man went. She said that he walked closer to the apartment building, and then he went out of sight. This was concerning because to us there was a strong possibility that the man was inside our apartment building. It took me a long time to fall asleep that night, but nothing strange happened until I finally did fall asleep. I had dozed off at probably about 2 a.m., but was awoken to the sound of a knock on our apartment door. I quietly got up and walked over to it. I looked out the people beside. No one. My girlfriend and I both knew it had to be the man in the suit, but what did he want from us the rest of the night? There were no more knocks. In fact, we never did see that man again. But I always wonder who he was and why we kept seeing him.